Greetings, friends. David Marks here. I want to talk to you about an amazing new feature called the Remove Tool in Adobe Photoshop. Although the Remove Tool is easy to use, this tutorial is not intended for Photoshop beginners. Throughout this lesson, I'm going to assume that you are already familiar with the way that other foundational Photoshop features, like layers, work, and I'm going to assume that you are a serious photographer who is interested in the utmost in image quality. If you fit that description, then let's jump right in and let's get started. I shot this image years ago and I like it, but those power lines on both sides of the building and a lot of the extra stuff, that all needs to go. To get rid of these distractions, I'm going to activate the Remove tool, which is part of Adobe Photoshop version 25. Now, some of you will immediately be able to find the Remove tool here on your toolbar, but others of you are going to have a harder time finding this one. If you don't see this symbol, this little band-aid with the stars around it, then let's check on three things. First, let's make sure that you're using the latest version of Adobe Photoshop. If you're working with an older version, then you're never going to find this new tool. Second, are you missing the entire toolbar? If your toolbar is missing, then go up to the menu bar at the very top of the screen, then over to the word Window and down to Tools. If you still can't find the Remove tool, then let's go Edit, Toolbar. And when this window appears, click on the button that says Restore Defaults. Finally, if you scroll down in the left-hand column here, down to the Patch Tool group, then you can click and drag the Remove tool so it's the first member of this grouping. We can tap the Done button at this point, and now everyone should be able to find this new feature. The first step before I start to remove anything is to create a blank pixel layer. I can do this by going Layer, New, Layer, and I'll call this one Cleanup. Next, I'm going to zoom in here at the bottom left corner of my screen. Now, if needed, I can get the Remove tool again, and then I can come up here and set my brush size. I want to select a brush size that's large enough to paint quickly over the object I want to remove using this slider on the options bar. For this demo, I'm also going to enable the Sample All Layers button and the Remove After Each Brush Stroke option. Now, I'll paint a purple blob over this object. That's the area that I want to hide, and as soon as I have identified the area, Photoshop will use an AI algorithm to invent a plug of pixels that makes that object vanish. If I hold down on the space bar on my keyboard at this point to bring up the hand tool, then I can pan up to see another part of this image. These spots up here, these are actually birds that were flying around in the background, and they add nothing to the scene, so they can go. That's pretty amazing. And to take these power lines away, I'm going to use a couple of additional tricks. First, I'm going to resize my brush using the left or right bracket keys on my keyboard. Like any type of brush tool in Adobe Photoshop, the left bracket on a standard English keyboard reduces the tip size. The right bracket increases it. Next, I'm going to disable the Remove After Each Stroke option up here on the menu bar. When I turn this feature off, I'm telling Photoshop that I do not want the AI to kick in automatically. Turning this feature off allows me to click once on one side of the power line. Then I can bring the cursor over to the other side. I can hold down the Shift key on my keyboard, and with the Shift key held down, I can tap the left button on my mouse. Using a Shift click tells Photoshop that I want it to paint a straight line for me from point A to point B. Once the magenta overlay is in the right place, I can come up here and tap on this check mark on the options bar to trigger the AI algorithm. And now I can repeat this process for the second line. I'll use a regular mouse click to set point A. Then I'll move the cursor over to the other side. I'll hold down the Shift key and I'll tap the left mouse button again to set point B. Once my overlay is in place, I could go back up and tap on the check mark on the options bar, but there's a very simple keyboard shortcut that you can use to activate the AI instead when you're using the Remove tool this way. To initiate the AI at this point, all I have to do is to tap on the Enter or Return key on my keyboard. And with that, the second power line vanishes. I'm going to speed the video up at this point, so you don't have to watch me remove all of the distracting stuff from the other side of the building. But I want to show you how clean this photo can be with just a few more minutes of work. We went from this to this using nothing but the Remove tool and a couple of mouse clicks. That's fantastic. For our next example, I thought I should begin things back in Lightroom Classic, since that's where I do the vast majority of my raw image development work. And this way, I can show you my complete workflow. I like this photograph, but if I zoom in here, then you can see this picnic table in front of that teepee. I'm sure that this table is great for the guests who stay in these rental teepees, but I don't need this extraneous object in my photograph. Often, the cleanup tools in Lightroom or in Adobe Camera Raw are all that I need to remove something small, like a dust spot. But for a large object like this one, Lightroom usually fails to produce stellar results. That wasn't great. Let's try it again. Still not much better. Rather than fighting a losing battle, let me undo the work that I've done here. And instead, I'm going to send a copy of this image over to Adobe Photoshop for further cleanup. Once Photoshop opens, I'm going to zoom way in. Then I'll create a blank layer for my cleanup, just like I did last time. Now I can press the letter J on my keyboard or Shift plus the letter J to cycle through the whole tool set until I find the Remove tool. For the bottom of the table and the shadow underneath it, I'm going to enable the Remove after each stroke option. And then I'll paint away on these areas using a smaller brush. When I'm painting, I want to be fairly careful, but a little bit of spill is not going to hurt anything. Next, I'll turn the Remove option off, and I'll try to tackle the rest of the table in one pass. As I do this, I may need to vary my brush size, and I may need to zoom in a little closer to paint with a little bit more precision. Once I've covered the area that I want to remove, I'll tap the Enter or Return key again on my keyboard. Wow. With 2 or 3 more strokes, that unwanted object will be completely gone. And if I zoom back out, things look pretty good. I say pretty good rather than perfect because I do see a little bit of repetition and some softness in the areas that I just patched. If you're working on a high-resolution image, especially if you're working on something that you might want to print at a really large size, then it might be worth your time to combine the results that you get from the Remove tool with some of Photoshop's other cleanup features. To demo that, I'm going to switch over to the healing brush at this point. Then I'll use the bracket keys on my keyboard to get the right size brush. Before I start to use the healing brush, I want to make sure that the sample options up here say current layer and below. Then I can use the Alt or Alt-Option key on my keyboard and a left mouse click to tell the computer what I want it to sample. With a couple of paint dabs and a little variety in what I sample, I can break up some of that repetitive pattern and make things look perfect. If I needed to add additional adjustments to this image, then I would create them at this point above this cleanup layer in my layers palette. Let me save my work and close this image. And now, if I switch back over to Lightroom, I can show you what our finished image looks like compared to the original. Look at this versus this. That's pretty amazing. And in this case, the whole round trip from Lightroom to Photoshop for AI-powered image cleanup took almost no time at all. I hope that you found this lesson on the Remove Tool helpful. If you learned something today, then please leave us a like or a comment down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in our next tutorial.